You can be handsome, successful, have a good heart, and always be sincere. But just one wrong sentence, said in a moment of emotional weakness, can make her lose all feelings. Not because she's cruel, but because attraction in a woman's eyes is fragile, intuitive, and constantly shifting. A woman doesn't need a clear reason to withdraw. She only needs to no longer feel that you're the one leading. And sometimes the words you think are heartfelt, like, "I can't live without you," or "Please don't leave me, I need you," are exactly what make her pull away faster than any betrayal could. This video will reveal 6 phrases that kill attraction. And more importantly, help you understand why respect comes from strength, not from begging. Don't miss it. 1. When words kill attraction. David, a young entrepreneur living in Brooklyn, never imagined that a single sentence could make everything fall apart. He wasn't weak. On the contrary, he built his career from the ground up, running a startup with impressive growth. But like many men, he had a blind spot in love, especially when he fell too hard. During a minor argument, honestly, nothing serious, just that she didn't reply to his message while he was waiting, David blurted out, "Without you, I have nothing." She went silent for a few seconds. She didn't cry, didn't lash out, she just went quiet. The next day, his phone didn't ring, no messages came. 3 days later, he texted again, no reply. A week passed, not a single sign, and David began to realize he had just destroyed the attraction she once had for him. There are phrases that seem like sincerity, but in truth, they are burdens. Women love through emotion, and once that emotional current shifts, it rarely flows back. Saying, "Without you, I have nothing," may sound like a deep expression of love, but in reality, it's a confession of internal imbalance. To a woman, that doesn't make her feel special, it makes her feel trapped. Instead of being a partner in the relationship, she suddenly becomes the axis around which every value, every purpose of the man's life revolves. And that, fundamentally, is not attractive. A truly attractive man is someone who knows how to live well with himself. He doesn't need someone else to feel worthy, but he's open to sharing that world with the woman he chooses. Women don't seek a man who can't survive without them. They seek someone who can lead emotionally, stay energetically grounded, and who isn't swept away by storms of anger or insecurity. After weeks of confusion, David finally spoke to a close female friend. She said quietly, "When a man says, 'I am nothing without you,' he's admitting that his life has no direction, no core. And if I were the woman who loved him, I'd feel exhausted carrying the weight of his whole world." That's when David finally understood. He wasn't left because he wasn't good enough, but because he had stopped being himself, the confident, purpose-driven man she once saw as a leader worth following. The lesson? Never use your words to ease your fear, and in doing so, unknowingly hand it over for the woman to carry. Learn to stand on your own, and if you love someone, invite them to walk with you, not to become the only thing holding you up. 2. Fear is not a sign of love. Mark was a fitness trainer in Seattle. He had an impressive physique and was respected for his discipline, strength of character, and calm demeanor. He wasn't the kind of man who easily showed emotions, but in love, even the strongest hearts have their fragile moments. His girlfriend, a young architect, once said that it was Mark's composure and certainty that made her feel safe. To her, he was a place to lean on, not because of his muscles or appearance, but because of the energy of a man who knew who he was and where he was going. But then, one evening after a small disagreement, Mark held her hand, eyes slightly red, and said, "I'm so afraid of losing you." That sentence at first sounded sweet and sincere, but her gaze froze. Her hand slowly pulled away, even though she still loved him. She didn't say anything more, but from that moment, everything started to shift. In a woman's subconscious, the feeling of safety is the deciding factor. They can forgive mistakes, but it's very difficult to maintain attraction toward a man who makes them feel emotionally unsafe, even when that unease comes from his vulnerability. The sentence, "I'm afraid of losing you," isn't just a confession. It unconsciously turns her into the emotional anchor of the relationship. It places a burden on her shoulders, a responsibility that a mature man should be handling himself. Emotional expression is necessary, but not at all times, and not in ways that cost you your composure. A man can say, "I value you deeply, and I want us to get through this together," or, "I don't want to lose what we have, so I'll do my best to understand you more." These are the words of a steady man, a man who dares to face his feelings without surrendering to them. In psychology, when a man transfers his fear onto his partner, that is, when he loses control over his own emotional state, he ceases to be a source of stability and becomes an emotional burden. Mark didn't understand that. He thought honesty would deepen their connection. But he didn't realize. The man she once loved was someone who made her feel safe, not someone who panicked and feared the future. Final reflection. Love doesn't require you to hide your emotions, but it does ask you to express them with control. Confidence doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you know how to stand firm, even while being afraid. A woman may love a man who's been hurt, but she will not stay with a man who sinks into his own fear. And for Mark, that lesson didn't come through a lecture. It came through the long silence of a woman who once saw him as her safest place. 3. When you lose your boundaries. Ethan was a civil engineer living in Chicago. He was intelligent, financially stable, and about to marry the woman he loved, Lily, a university lecturer. They had been together for 3 years, had overcome many challenges, and built a shared dream of a warm home and small family. But like many relationships that seem perfect, the problem began when Lily wanted to postpone the wedding to re-evaluate her feelings. Confused and afraid, Ethan sat down, looked her in the eyes and said, "I'll do anything to keep you. Whatever you want, I'll accept it. Just please, don't leave me." That sentence didn't move her emotionally. It didn't make her feel loved more deeply. It made her step back. Because in that moment, Ethan, the man who once had strong opinions, who knew who he was, had lost his boundaries. Love is not a negotiation where you sacrifice your identity just to secure someone's presence. And women, though they don't always articulate it clearly, can deeply sense when the man in front of them no longer holds on to his own values. Ethan believed that being willing to change, willing to accept anything, would help him keep Lily. But in reality, no one wants to commit to someone who is willing to erase themselves just to stay. Excessive kindness, the kind that surrenders under the name of love, is no different than signing off your leadership in the relationship. An attractive man is not someone who does everything for a woman, but someone who knows what he will accept and what he will not. Boundaries are not walls, they're a map of self-respect. When you say, "I'll do anything to keep you," you silence yourself and open the door to an unbalanced relationship. And once the emotional scale tilts, attraction will fade. Mature love requires equal energy exchange. When one side gives endlessly and the other receives without needing to protect it, that relationship is no longer love, but a form of emotional dependency. Lily didn't leave Ethan because she stopped loving him. She withdrew because the feeling of safety disappeared when the man she once respected became someone willing to give up everything just to avoid being left behind. Final reflection. You can love deeply, but never lose your boundaries. Remember, the man who knows how to say no at the right time is the one a woman wants to stay with long term. Because if you don't respect your own worth, you can't expect anyone else to respect it for you. 4. Don't hurt me. a plea that destroys respect. Kevin was a 32-year-old IT professional living in Denver. He was kind, considerate, and always gave his best in every relationship. When Kevin loved, he loved wholeheartedly. But perhaps that sincerity became a weakness when placed in the wrong context. His girlfriend Jessica worked in media. They had been together for nearly 2 years. At first, the relationship was very sweet. But over time, Jessica began to feel suffocated. Not because Kevin treated her badly, but because he began to rely too heavily on her emotions to define his own sense of worth. One evening, after days of cold silence, Jessica came to end things. And in that moment, Kevin could only take her hand, choking up, and say, "Please don't hurt me anymore." Jessica didn't cry. She didn't get angry. But her eyes slowly became distant. And then she walked away, not because she didn't love him anymore, but because she no longer saw strength in the man she once admired. Women don't leave because you're weak. They leave when you turn your weakness into a plea. In a relationship, it's inevitable that one person will get hurt at some point. But when that pain becomes a reverse weapon used to guilt someone into staying, that is no longer love, but unconscious emotional manipulation. The phrase "don't hurt me anymore," while emotional, is in fact a way of handing over emotional responsibility to someone else. You're asking them not to make a free choice, simply because you're in pain. An attractive man doesn't beg for affection, he builds trust. Instead of saying, "Please don't go," a steady man would say, "If you no longer feel happy in this relationship, I respect that choice. I'm hurt, but I'll be okay. And I'm grateful for the good things we shared." That's not coldness. That's the expression of inner strength. A woman may leave, but she'll always remember you as a man who loved with responsibility, not with tears and begging. Final reflection. No one else is responsible for protecting you from your inner pain, except you. An attractive man is not someone who has never been hurt, but someone who knows how to turn pain into wisdom, not into a chain to bind others. So when the storm hits, don't sit there begging for sunlight. Stand up, put on your coat, and walk like you know the road ahead. Even if it's soaked, it's still yours. 5. She wants to join your world, not become all of it. Chris was a content creator living in Austin, Texas. With his own YouTube channel, tens of thousands of followers, a consistent posting schedule, and stable income, Chris was at the peak of his creativity and independence. But then he fell in love with Emma, a gentle, thoughtful, and inspiring woman. At first, Emma was a breath of fresh air in Chris's busy life. He loved her so much that little by little, every habit, every video shoot, every work trip began to revolve around her. He adjusted his work schedule to see her more often. He declined collaboration offers just because she didn't like someone in the project. And he started creating content based on her inspiration, no longer following the voice within himself. One day, Emma looked at him, sighed gently, and said, "I want to be a part of your life, not become all of it. I don't want to be the reason you forget who you are." Chris was stunned. He thought he was expressing the deepest form of love, but he didn't realize that he had poured the entire focus of his life into one person and unintentionally weighed her down with his love. A woman doesn't need you to revolve around her. She wants to walk beside you, not lead your entire life. When you make her the center, when every decision awaits her approval, when every plan revolves solely around us, you are no longer the man she was attracted to. You become a faded version of yourself. Love is not about giving up your own world. It's about expanding that world so someone else can step in and build with you. A man with passion, a clear path, and defined principles, that's the kind of man a woman wants to follow. But when you lose your identity just to keep love, you're giving up the very thing that made you attractive in the first place. Chris's story is a lesson for anyone who confuses love with self-erasure. Emma didn't leave because she stopped loving him, but because she didn't want to bear the responsibility for the happiness of a man who erased himself in the name of love. Final reflection. Don't ask someone to become the only light in your life. Keep your own inner flame burning and invite your partner to walk with you through sunshine and storms, always with direction. Because women don't seek a man who can't live without them. They seek a man who lives well, but chooses to share that life with them. 6. Conclusion. Attraction is energy, not promises. Lucas lived in San Diego, a sunny coastal city where people always smile, always stay polite, and everyone tries to be a good person. Lucas was the same. He was the textbook nice guy, always sending good morning texts, always asking, "Did you eat yet?" Always checking, "Are you okay?" even after she had ignored his texts 3 times. He never forgot anniversaries, always rearranged personal plans to meet her, always yielded during arguments. He thought if he was good enough, caring enough, patient enough, she would appreciate the love. But one day she said it plainly, "You're a great guy, but I don't feel the spark." Lucas was stunned. Being a good person wasn't enough. No, because attraction doesn't come from promises of eternal love or unconditional submission. It comes from life energy, from identity, from independence and decisiveness, from being able to stand on your own, and knowing that no one else should own your emotional state but you. Many men confuse kindness with attraction, but they forget kindness is the baseline, not a bonus. If you're only sweet, gentle, always available, but have no voice of your own, no principles, no boundaries, you're not attractive. You're just convenient. Lucas wasn't a bad man. He was just too predictable, too soft, too willing to accept everything, until the woman no longer felt the thrill or respect. An attractive man is still kind, but never weak. He can love deeply, but won't lose himself. He can text first, but never beg. He can listen, but won't suppress his own feelings just to keep someone else comfortable. Lucas eventually began to change. He didn't become a bad boy. He didn't learn cheap tricks. He simply learned how to say no, how to be busy, how to prioritize his own goals and live according to his values. And surprisingly, when he stopped pouring his entire life into pleasing others, women started noticing him again. Final reflection. Attraction doesn't come from how much you've suffered, but from how you've risen from that suffering. No one is drawn to mere endurance, but everyone is pulled towards someone who transforms pain into strength. So instead of trying to prove I'll never hurt you, become the kind of man who even when hurt stands up with undeniable presence. That's the kind of energy that makes people look twice, even when you haven't made a single promise. Final summary. A strong man is not one who never sheds tears, but one who never lets those tears decide his direction. He knows when to stay silent to protect his dignity, when to walk away to guard his boundaries, and when to stand alone, without needing someone to lift him or even understand him. In a world where emotions are romanticized and submission is sometimes mistaken for virtue, a single sentence spoken in a weak moment can cost you your attraction, your trust, and your entire relationship. So choose your words like you choose your character, carefully and with conviction. Because sometimes one careless phrase can close the very door you spent a year building with sincerity. Thank you for watching till the end. See you in the next video.